Hello and welcome to People and Profit, the business show with a castle for sale. Coming up, the French president went to China and came back with big deals for French firms. But do state visits really help to boost business ties? As the future of Iran's nuclear deal hangs in the balance, we look at what's changed in the country's economy in the 2 years since sanctions were lifted. And a crumbling French chateau attracts 25,000 buyers online as culture turns to crowdfunding. First up, though, it was a good few days for French businesses in China as President Emmanuel Macron went on his first state visit to the country. The deals announced during his trip included a massive order of 184 Airbus planes. Emmanuel Macron met some of the biggest names in Chinese business, including the billionaire Jack Ma. France 24's James Andre asked the founder of the internet giant Alibaba what he and the French president discussed.
The president sent a strong message about the strengthening relation between China and France and doing more business together.
Well, I'm joined in studio now by Sébastien Badault, who's the managing director of Alibaba in France. Thank you for coming to speak to us.
Very happy to be here.
We learned during this trip to China that Alibaba is going to be investing more in France. What can you tell us about that?
I think what we're trying to do is really to be a partner to as many French companies as possible. So we're investing in bringing more people to join me and my team. We're about 20 sometimes so far, but we'll be more in the coming weeks, coming years. And the idea is to really be a bridge between France and China. So that's the way we're going to be investing.
When you see visits like Emmanuel Macron going to China, meeting with Jack Ma, do you think that changes the atmosphere for a company like Alibaba? Is it going to encourage greater ties with France?
I think the ties with France were there to begin with. Jack Ma has met with President Hollande before meeting with President Macron, and that's when he decided to start up our office here in France. And I think it definitely plays a very good role. France is anyway a very important country for Alibaba for a couple of reasons. First of all, because a lot of the products that Chinese consumers want come from France, so cosmetics, food, wine, fashion, luxury, and also Chinese tourists really want to come to France. So as all the activities that we do around payments and around travel can really help there. So I think France is really a key market for China as a whole and for Alibaba as well. And having the link with the government definitely helps boost our presence.
And there's also some issues around regulation which can be ironed out in those sort of meetings. There are particular products that you want to be able to sell more of that are difficult to get into China.
So I think the Chinese government has made, and this was really the point of the discussion, has made a lot of leeway and changes to make it more available to the market. And I think that now, a lot of products that couldn't be sent to China now are available to be sold in China. We can do cross-border trade, which didn't exist before. And we created a platform called Tmall Global, which allows, companies that are not set up in China to actually sell there, which you couldn't do 3 years ago. So now you can do it. The government has made it, possible for all of these businesses.
What's the big draw for Chinese consumers of French products? What are they looking for?
There's a question of quality in terms of craftsmanship and creativity when you look at fashion. I think there's something that makes them dream also a little bit, and they want to kind of take a piece of France home. So I think maybe sometimes it starts with them coming over to France, and then when they come back, they want to continue basically their trip by buying the products that they were in touch with when they were in the country.
Do you find it at all difficult to convince French companies to sell through your site?
I mean, there's a lot of hand-holding. We have to explain to them. I think a lot of them are a little bit intimidated by China, by its size, by the fact that there's a different language, a different culture. So I think a lot of it has to do with, explaining and giving them ways to find, the right partners also to work with in terms of logistics, in terms of marketing. But yeah, as we're going along, it's getting better and better.
One of the issues that has been raised in other countries by French companies is the issue of counterfeit goods being sold on Alibaba's site. What are you doing about that? So
I think we've taken a zero-tolerance policy around everything that's linked to counterfeit, and we partner with brands, with governments as well, because we have to go after the counterfeiters. Even though it happens online, counterfeiting actually is done offline, and so we have to partner with police and everything. And I think we've made major strides. We haven't gotten rid of the problem, and it's a daily fight, but we definitely are working really, really hard on it with brands, with governments, with associations as well.
You're selling French products to Chinese consumers. Is there a business going in the other direction as well?
There is. There's a platform called AliExpress, which is available in about 100 markets in the world, including France. And France is a market where it's working quite well, where basically Chinese merchants can sell directly to French customers. So it's a marketplace as well. And basically, if you look at whatever product, it doesn't go through any intermediaries, so the cost is much lower, and so you can buy products very, very cheap.
Where do you go next with your business? Have you another product area that you want to be able to sell on Alibaba?
So I think one of the things that we've done recently, and we launched at the end of August, was a specific platform for luxury products called the Luxury Pavilion. Because, as you know, the Chinese consumers are the #1 consumers of luxury products in the world. And the idea was to create a specific platform that only luxury brands can sell on, and that's what we're working towards building. That's one of the things that we're really pushing.
Okay, Sébastien Badault, Managing Director of Alibaba in France. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Now, it's been 2 years since many of the economic sanctions on Iran were lifted, thanks to the nuclear agreement between Tehran and 6 major world powers. It was hailed at the time as a major opportunity for the Islamic Republic's economy. But has the deal had a tangible impact for Iranians? Our correspondent in Tehran has been finding out.
It's been 2 years since sanctions were lifted under the Iran nuclear deal. But here in Tehran's Grand Bazaar, Iranians say they're still waiting to feel an economic change.
Iran could benefit from the nuclear deal, but it can't be one-sided. If only the US would make it work.
This deal has done nothing for Iranians. Every day, the US slaps on new sanctions.
Philippe Bernadette is preparing for the opening of Tehran's first decathlon, a French sporting goods store. For now, certain shelves remain empty, but he's hoping to fill them before the store's inauguration in mid-February. One of his biggest setbacks, having to mark up prices.
Unfortunately, the price has to be 40 to 60% higher than in France because of import taxes, which are very important.
On top of all the red tape, bank sanctions that have become part of daily life for the French distributor.
When I first came here, I could only use cash, which obviously made it difficult to get things started. Today, that's no longer the case. Now we can make transfers. Things are still complicated, but we're getting there.
It's all come together following 3 years of preparations and some setbacks.
You need to have patience and you need to have endurance. I think it would be extremely complicated for any company developing in Iran to expect a very fast return.
Last October, U.S. President Donald Trump ruled that the Islamic Republic hadn't been respecting the agreement and suggested adding more sanctions, creating a new pressure for European companies.
With Trump's decision to decertify the nuclear accord, some of our clients have decided to restructure their investments and tighten their activities in Iran. We're forced to rethink our entire investment scheme.
French President Emmanuel Macron will visit Iran in June to defend the historic deal, which is facing an uncertain future.
Kate Moody's been looking at the broader changes to Iran's economy since most of those international sanctions were lifted. Kate?
Well, Stephen, the first sector to spring back to life was Iran's crucial oil industry. After a sharp drop in 2012, output has soared back up to the pre-embargo levels, pumping as much as 4 million barrels a day. The country still has huge reserves of both crude oil and natural gas. Industry leaders were quick to jump in. Royal Dutch Shell and France's Total both signed major deals to exploit the oil and gas fields. Airplane and car manufacturers also dove back, with Airbus and Peugeot Citroën taking the lead. Now, all that activity has helped pull the economy out of its sanctions-induced doldrums. According to Iran's central bank, GDP expanded by more than 12% in the first year after most restrictions were lifted. The official unemployment rate also stands near 12%, although it is much higher in certain parts of the country, and about a quarter of young Iranians don't have jobs. Inflation has calmed from its rate over 30% in 2013, but price rises remain sharp and unpredictable. That has fueled public anger. Iran's return to relative economic stability hasn't trickled down to much of the population, and its involvement in international conflicts means that it's still often isolated. Most banks are still blocked from the global financial system, putting a damper on business prospects. And the ever-present threat of more sanctions has held back further efforts to develop and reform the economy. Stephen?
Kate, thank you very much for that. Now next, the story of a fairy tale castle in France that's been saved by the internet. An online crowdfunding effort has raised €1.6 million to buy a chateau in the west of the country near the Loire Valley. Around 25,000 people from 115 countries are now proud co-owners of a crumbling ruin. Nick Rushworth has the story.
It looks fabulous from a distance, but this 19th century edifice is in severe need of repair. The crowdfunding website d'Artagnan.fr and a couple of heritage protection groups have come to the rescue, raising enough money online to buy and restore it.
This part here is typical of the damage in the chateau. A tree has grown in what was a staircase. The tower has partly collapsed, and that is what we found amazing. It is like something out of a fairy tale, like out of a Disney movie, and that's what touched people.
One of the 25,000 co-owners is Clément. He donated €100.
I wasn't making much of a financial commitment here, but for something that's really quite special. I've always been a chateau fan, so this whole project really appealed to me.
With more than double the number of donations than were expected, the chateau's rescue is being hailed by none other than the Culture Ministry.
I saw that a lot of the donors came from around the world. There were Brazilians, Chinese, Japanese, Americans, and that really speaks volumes for France's prestige. There's been a magnificent turnaround for this chateau.
A second round of crowdfunding may be needed for restoration, but for some, this kind of approach is the way to go.
This is a perfect example of what can be achieved. So let's think outside the box. Something incredible has happened here. Let's be part of this incredible trend.
Among the ideas for what the restored chateau should be used for go from somewhere for artists to work to a bed and breakfast destination.
Well, that's it from us for this week. If you have any castles for sale or any thoughts on the stories we've been covering, you can get in touch on Facebook at France 24 Business, or you can tweet me at NewStephen. Until next time, thanks for watching.